Hi, gang. Welcome to the show. And no, I'm not Christian Basil. I'm Mark Muncie from Erie Travels, but I am very excited today to come to you from my secret bunker to help host our wonderful Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. And we have an amazing crew with us today to interview this amazing guest. So, first up, I'm going to be switching over to introduce some of our guests. So, why don't we bring up the panel, Christian, so that I can introduce everybody, because I don't know who to throw to next.
Oh, okay, I was going to hide for that. You know what? Might as well start it off with me.
Yeah. Hey, who is this guy?
Yes, I am the host of the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. For those of you just joining us, hi. Today we have a special guest. I'm going to be in the panel today because I'm going to let our friends who are fellow panelists, who are authors, and not only that, but know this man inside and out, which we'll be introducing in just a few moments out there. But if you haven't already, please log on and tune in over at the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS, either on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Now, I have a confession to make, Mark. I haven't told... We mentioned it on the Facebook page, but we really mentioned it here. If you notice, I put a banner up earlier that says Facebook.com/The Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. Join the 68,000 Whovian followers. That's a big old number.
That's a big number.
That is a big, huge number. And this past Father's Day, I was proud to say that we hit 69,000 followers.
Nice.
So that was Father's Day this, 2 Sundays ago, right? Not this past Sunday, but the Sundays ago. So I was about to make an announcement. We went to, if you guys were here last Wednesday, we were at Graffiti Junction, and we were there at the bar, and we had trivia night. We had a cosplay contest. We just had loads of fun. It was hosted by Billy Floyd. You know, I should do this. I should have other people host for a change out here. It just seems fun. It's just like, I'll just lay back here and enjoy the ride. So if you notice, Melanie's not here today, so I'm acting as Melanie and Dave today. I'll be hosting your chats out there. So 69,000 followers. Having said that, on the night that we were at, there we go. On the night that we were at Graffiti Junction, when we were doing the live broadcast from there, it was a 2.5-hour show. I went on my phone, and then this miraculously happened.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Another 1,000 of you just showed up in 3 days. So I was going to say, listen, we can't wait to hit 70,000 by the end of this year. So I'm just proud to say that's not going to happen because we already hit it. We're already at a 70,100 something, and we're still rising, and we can't thank you enough over there. So 70,000 of you have joined our Facebook page. Thank you so much, and that number continues to rise. And if you haven't already joined us, again, please join us over at the Legend. Oh, wait. Yeah, I got to make that edit. Hang on a second. Take out 68, and then now we can say 70,000 followers on our Facebook page. And I have no idea why you guys are out there, but we love you just the same for being out there. I guess I can start off in a somber note. Do you want to wait until later for that?
Let's introduce the rest of the panel, and let's save that for maybe the end there.
So. You got it there. Okay. So who else? Let's bring in Nico.
Hey, everybody. Nico. I'm doing great. I'm super excited to be here. I'm super excited to talk about a guy and talk to a guy who wrote my pretty much childhood through Scholastic Book Club. So I'm just I'm super excited and so grateful to be here on loan from my own show, X's for Show. You can check me out at Nico Action and X's for Show out at X's for Show on all your socials.
Nice. Speaking of which, Nico is only one half of the dueling couple out here for X's the Show. Here is the other half. This is Mr. Kevo Risse. How you doing, Kevo? Welcome.
Hey, everyone. He's got to do the back-to-back, but you get the idea. Yeah.
Yes, we do. Nice. How's it going, Kevo?
Going good. Yeah, I made us matching backgrounds. This book series is something that we bonded over when we first met, and so this is super exciting. Always exciting to get to talk to anyone who has been involved in the world of Doctor Who and writing for that as well. So looking forward to a good episode.
And yes, look, jeez, Mark already. Yeah,
nice.
Everybody's saying, well, I'm going to say hello to the new guy, Jave Happ. I haven't seen you before, but welcome to Legends Traveling TARDIS. Hello, fellow Whovians, indeed. And thank you from X's the Show, 70,000. Yeah, good grief. Yep, raves, rants, and raves, and rants, better known as the hashtag Guru Tom. Wish I had those numbers. You're gonna get up there, dude. Trust me, you're gonna eventually make it up there. Speaking of making it up there, welcome Nick Smith from the Cosmic Math.
Wow, hello there.
Hey there, Nick. How you doing, my friend?
Good. Welcome from sunny Magic City, Nashville.
Oh, really? How are things out there? What are you doing out there?
They're good, but I had more fun
Hey, Bush one.
getting to know John Peel at CON KASTERBOROUS.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Yes,
And,
John was there.
Yeah, I mean, when his Dalek books came out, it was huge. You know, it was a huge deal. So he's very special in my heart and the heart of many fans.
Got it out there. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring in our special guest today, Mr. author John Peel. How you doing, John? Thanks for coming on today.
Hi, it's nice to be here.
Gotcha. And if you're hearing lovebirds, that's on John's side.
oh good.
Yeah.
That's all John. So
Yeah,
It's beautiful.
gravy. And please make sure you check out wherever you're watching this right now. Check out the links in the description. We have John's Facebook page and other links that you can follow John on and check out his literature. John, how goes it, my friend? Thank you for joining us out there.
I'm glad to be here.
All right. Well, welcome out there. And without further ado, I'm going to, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm coming in between you two. There.
Oh, there you go. Oh, what?
So without further ado, our guest host, Mark Muncy. Mark, take it away. And
John, I've got to say, I'm like everybody said, we're all big fans of how influential your work was and everything. But let's go back to the beginning and let's say, how did you get started as a writer?
Basically, by being a Doctor Who fan. Back in the days when I was actually a youngster, Doctor Who was pretty fresh on the air, and I used to watch it. And then a friend of mine and I would sit and write Doctor Who stories, basically, in the evenings after watching the show. And eventually that transferred over to being part of the Doctor Who Appreciation Society. And they ended up producing a magazine that the two of us wrote together called Cosmic Mask. And that was really what done everything for me. After that, it was mostly a matter of luck and a bit of pushiness on my part.
Love that.
Like all good writers.
Yep.
Well, as a writer, you have to have a certain amount of pushiness, because otherwise people won't listen to you. If you're quiet and stay in the background, that's pretty much where you'll stay. So you have to occasionally push yourself onto people. And I did that with the editor of Doctor Who Weekly, as it was back then.
Yeah.
Some ideas of my work as story. And eventually said, well, yeah, let's try it. And he liked one of my submissions. We turned, it gave me a hand with this and turned it into a fully fledged backup strip for monsters. So that was pretty much how I began my writing career. It was, as I say, it was a bit of luck, a bit of pushiness, and hopefully a lot of good ideas. Well, again, as a writer, you have to be convinced that your ideas are good, otherwise nobody else will believe it. Right. So you have to be out there and say, I'm the best writer you could possibly hire for whatever it is.
That's great. And we all remember the wilderness years of when there was no Doctor Who on television. Right. And I believe yours was, the first, right, of the new adventures that was not based on anything that had been previously done, like unaired scripts or anything like that. So
right, yes. Well, awesome. I as I said, I'd been doing this since I was basically about 10 years old. So I was really, really keen on being the first original authorized Doctor Who writer, and I pushed very hard Peter Darvel Evans to let me do this, and he agreed. Probably wasn't really a very fair idea of mine, because I always thought afterwards, well, you know, it really should have been Terrence Dicks. I mean, Terrence was the one who basically got the whole Target Books business started, and without him, it wouldn't have worked. So, I mean, I felt, well, it should have been Terrence doing this. And when I met Terrence, I said to him, you know, I hope it didn't annoy you with me being so pushy and wanting to do the first. And he said, oh, no. On the contrary, he said, because I knew what would happen. He said, whatever anybody wrote, the fans would tear it to pieces. Right. I'd write the second one.
Times haven't changed.
You were the test balloon.
Yeah. And then he said, I would write the second one, and everybody would say, well, it's not very good, but it's better than John.
Man,
dry.
That's fantastic. So now one other question I have then right off the bat is, one of my other favorite series is that you wrote for is the Avengers. I worked with the great Sir Patrick McNee on a very terrible TV show here in Florida that was called Super Force, and it was just horrible show. But you know, he was such a professional. He would come and do voiceover work as the computer voice and all that. And I kept in touch with him long after that was gone, because we would sit and do all that. But one of the things I got to show him was your book, Too Many Targets, which I think was one of the, you know, just great joys in my life, was introducing him to things. He didn't realize how much the fans still adored the stuff. And so one of my prized possessions is a copy of that book signed by him to me. So, you know, sadly packed away in one of these many boxes right now, but he did know about your book, and he had heard it. And for those who aren't familiar with the Avengers, not the comic book Avengers or the movie Avengers, this was the original series, BBC.
Some people call the real Avengers.
What we call the real Avengers, Dr. John Steed and Mrs. Emma Peel. No relation to John Peel here, or maybe, who knows? But this book was, for me, was like the 5 Doctors for Doctor Who, because this brought back all the old companions and everything for John Steed, and it was pretty amazing. You have an encyclopedic mind, sir.
Well, part of it is mine. Part of it is also Dave Rogers, who was the consultant on the book with me. And he was offering suggestions. And
John, I don't mean to cut you off. Can you get closer to your microphone, because we're not able to hear you too well. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Better,
No,
much
no,
better. Thank you. Sorry.
It's unusual. People actually ask me to talk up louder. But yeah, but you know, Dave Rogers was like the consultant and the in between guy, because he was involved with the you know, the people who own the copyright. And I just simply said, well, what can we do? And they said, anything you like, we don't care. Which was, at that point, there were no plans to do anything with the Avengers. They weren't even being issued on video, really. They were just something that the company had picked up and didn't really care about. So they said I could do anything they felt like. So that was it. You know, I just decided, well, let's throw everything into the mix. And it just seemed like it's too much fun to miss.
There you go.
It was definitely a joy. I recall that one very vividly. So that was wonderful. So,
John,
you know,
no, go ahead. Nico. I'm sorry, Nico.
Actually, I wanted to say that, you know, it's not just your, you know, properties based on other works that were super influential, because these books were like they were my Harry Potter as a kid.
Oh yeah.
The Diadem books, to the point where the guy over there, Kevo, who just said, "Oh yeah, that's my husband," and one of the first conversations we ever had was over how much we loved these books as kids. So then when I saw that the book series like actually continued years later, and they were reprints, so I bought them. And then there were new books, so I bought them. I would love to know a little bit more about this book, because like as a kid, I was like, this is going to be a television show and I'm going to write it. Like, so this was my everything as a kid. and I would love to know a little bit more about anything.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's very easy. I was working with one of my absolutely favorite editors, a guy called Craig Walker, and he had just moved into Scholastic and said to me that he wanted to do a new fantasy series with a little difference. He wanted it to be like a game as well as kind of interactive for the readers. Ooh. And I'm terrible at games, computer games anyway. I'm absolutely awful. And he said, well, we want it to be like Myst, if you remember that one. And I tried playing it and I couldn't figure it out. So I went
Nobody
back to
could. Nobody could.
It's not you.
So I went back to a board game concept. And if you look at the way it was, the books were laid out, they were like pieces moving across, from planet to planet. The idea there being that was the game. And Craig was absolutely wonderful, wonderful editor, because he's one of those great editors that would say, you know what would work nicely here? And he would be right. It would work nicely there.
Love that. A
lot of editors will say, you know what I think? And then you're in trouble because they're going to say,
Yep.
But with Craig, he always improved the story. He made it better. So, I mean, I just absolutely adored working with him. And we were just basically, we would meet probably once a month or so in his offices at Scholastic and just throw ideas around at each other. And his assistant, David, would also be in. David was the one who created all of the weird games in the first 6 books. We would just get together and everybody was allowed to throw ideas in. And then we would try and make sense out of it when we were finished. So although I did all the writing, it was very much a collaborative effort between us. Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't have worked as well with any other editor except Craig, because he would call me up and say, John, can you write me Jane Eyre with dragons? And that would be it. And then, of course, he'd wait, and then the next day I'd send him an outline because he knew it would just get me going. And that was how we always worked. He would just sort of throw an idea out and then let me deal with it.
Fantastic.
Okay. Well, we got Mark. We got a commercial break when we come up, and I just want to let you know, for those folks out in the audience, whoever said hello, again, Mr. Peel, if you can do me a favor, make sure that your settings are set to accept StreamYard, or otherwise you're just going to come in as a Facebook user. You can also join us over on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/The Legend of the Traveling TARDIS, if you want to check it out over there, if you don't have time to switch it out over there. But we'll get to your questions. Make sure you get your questions in the chat, and we'll bring them up to John when we return. Please continue to stay logged on, tuned in, and become part of the legend. We will be right back.
We are a touring acoustic duo crashing kitchens around the country. We go from house to house every Friday night, and we create music, we create food, a good time, we stream it live, and we do it for free. So now we're just really kind of like trying to develop it and build a community group that people believe in, then they'll help us. So we played from our rehearsal room, we played from the bathroom, thankfully that didn't catch on.
I probably played guitar in my room, not for anyone, in front of anyone, nobody heard, for probably about 10 years.
And then one Friday night, we played from the kitchen. It's the main place people want to be. It's where the food is, it's where the drink is, it's where the best lighting is. You can go to any party and I guarantee you, the kitchen is going to be popping.
Our ultimate goal, I think, would be to crash kitchens every Friday all around the world. You play this up for me, yeah.
I gotta admit, I love that freaking commercial.
Meet the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor.
But not the one you were expecting.
All right, sexy. It's time to go home.
Doctor Who Velocity. Streaming now.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. My name is Christian Basil with special guest host Mark Muncy of Erie, Florida, Nico Action, Kevo Really, Nick Smith from the Cosmic Mask, and of course we have special guest John Peel, as you can see on it. But it's not my time. It's for this gentleman right over here hosting the show, Mark Muncy. So take it away, Mark.
Well, John, again, we're all big fans of everything you do. One of my other favorite characters from Doctor Who was the great Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart. I think the unsung, through line for so many doctors. And you got to bring him back again. You've worked with him on the Lethbridge Stewart novels. So tell us a little bit about that series.
Well, the people there, generally Sean and Andy, just simply contacted me and said, "Would you like to write this? We've got we have a copyright thing for Lethbridge Stewart. Would you be interested in writing him?" And I'd never used him in any of my earlier Doctor Who novels. And as you said, he's an integral part of Doctor Who history. So I mean, I just thought, oh yes, the chance to write the Brigadier, yeah. And it was something that I really liked doing, because the Brig is a fun character. You can give him both humor and action, which is a good combination, really.
Yeah.
And it was just so attractive. I couldn't say no.
We all want those deals. We all want those deals.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Mark, I got some questions coming up into the
all
chat.
right.
I'm going to
Let's
start
see what
with
we got.
Got Mr. Mark Robinson, the Candyman himself. John, which Doctor did you prefer to write for?
Oh, actually, I like all of them. That I've
No, you can't use that cop out.
I will confess, Hartnell, because I mean, I was 9 years old when the show began, so he was my doctor. And whenever I think of the Doctor Who, he tends to be the one that comes to mind. So, plus, of course, he was the first one that I actually novelized, which helped. So a lot of good memories around him.
You have when you worked on Doctor Who comics, like I know that you didn't have too many, but you have such a considerable collaborator in John Stokes, who co-creator of the Invisibles. The guy is a king of his industry. Did you have a whole lot of interaction there, or is it just like one of those magical moments that happened?
Well, it's really weird writing comic strips, especially since I was writing them in New York and they were drawing them in England. I would just simply write the strip, send it in, and then wait, and then the editor would finally send me back a copy of the artwork. And when you're writing, I don't know how everybody else does it, but when I'm writing, I'm kind of like watching a TV screen in my head. So I have an image in my mind of how things are going to be. And when you're doing a comic strip, the artist, of course, has an image in his mind as to how things are going to be, and they're never the same. So you kind of wait hesitantly to see what you're going to get, because I had no choice in who the artist was going to be or anything, and how the artist would look at my script and turn it into the finished product. So it was always a kind of bated breath moment when I opened the envelope to see the copy of the art. And I was just tremendously happy that each time they'd gotten such a good artist to do the work. It just blew me away. So yeah, I really love doing those. Unfortunately, when I wrote the fourth one, the editor said, "Got bad news for you. That's going to be your last one because we're cancelling this backup." So I don't know if I killed it or what, but
no, those were great, John. These days, go ahead.
No, I was just saying I love doing those. They were great.
Yeah, I love reading them. These days, a writer's best friend is Google. You know, we can research anything, look up anything. But before the internet, what was your research of choice? You know, did you have piles of papers? Did you have it all in your head? How did you pull all these facts for the spin-offs and the tie-ins?
Oh, well, most of the time, I mean, as you can see behind me here, there's a fairly large bookshelf full of Doctor Who videos, and behind the videos are Doctor Who novels and books and things. I'd been collecting them since I was able to collect them. So I had a fair amount of material going back a long time. So I had a fair amount of material in that sense. Plus, being in the Doctor Who Appreciation Society, I'd gotten to know people there who were even more up on things than I was, and they could often answer questions that I couldn't. So I had really a great backing. The internet makes it easier. Let's put it that way. Doing the research, that's true. But I will still go to my book collection if I'm really looking things up, because you know, I'm an old-fashioned guy, I guess, and I just like books better.
John, we got a question in our chats. This is coming from Raves and Rants from our hashtag Guru, Tom Kosak. John, who is your favorite character that you have written in any story?
Ooh. That would probably have to be a character I wrote. Remember I mentioned something about Jane Eyre with dragons, with Craig. Well, that turned into a book called The Secret of Dragonhome, and the main character in that is a young lady called Melaine, and Melaine has the ability of communicating with anything, people, animals, whatever, and she also has no real concept about lying. So she just says whatever she believes. And she's terribly naive in that way. Doesn't think about what will happen. She just simply says, this is right. This is what I'm going to do. And she is just so totally self-honest and honest with other people. So I think probably of all my characters, she's my favorite. And I've had a lot of people write to me, especially via the internet, telling me that they absolutely love her, you know, the character of her. So obviously, she resonates with other people too. But I mean, I just love her. She's just such a great character because she's unpredictable and predictable at the same time. You never quite know where she's going, but you know she will always be honest and do what she believes is the right thing, whatever the cost. So, I mean, wonderful character. I like characters that have kind of what could be considered character flaws, but actually work out as character strengths. So.
Do you prefer working with your original characters, or do you enjoy sort of like the... I sometimes almost feel like there's a freedom of getting to work with other people's characters because you're less responsible for them. Do you prefer working with your own, though, or...?
It depends. I mean, obviously, I enjoy creating my own characters and situations and worlds and whatever. But at the same time, I am a fan. I mean, I have to say that. I'm a huge Doctor Who fan, obviously.
Yeah.
But I'm a fan of other things too. And one thing I'd always made very firm in my writing career is that I would only write tie-ins to shows that I enjoyed. Preferably ones I'd already seen. That makes it even easier.
So much good Nickelodeon stuff. We're such big fans. Such great work. Thank you.
But yeah, I mean, I enjoy both. It's not a question of one or the other. They're both much fun for me because I always think, hey, I can play in somebody else's field. I can take their characters and do something interesting with them. So, you know, I'm always enjoying myself, which is what I'm mostly interested in.
Of course.
Would you consider expanding out, meaning that would you consider like taking two different genres and crossing them over and writing a story about that?
Oh, I've done that before. Yeah. When I was writing fanzine stories, I remember one time I wrote a Doctor Who meets the A-Team, which was quite fun. John,
That's awesome.
John, I must find this book.
Yeah, let's get a producer on this now. That needs to be on the big screen right now.
Yes.
But I mean, I love doing these kind of things. It's fun. I mean, I don't have many writing rules because I usually break them if I have them anyway. But my number one writing rule is I've got to enjoy it. I mean, if I'm not enjoying what I'm writing, nobody who's reading it is going to enjoy it either. You can tell the difference between something where the person is a writer for hire who's just doing it because they've agreed to do it, and somebody who's actually loves the subject and thoroughly enjoys what they're doing, which is hopefully what I am. That's what I always aim at with my writing, whatever I write.
The reason why I asked that question is because our Candyman, Mark Robinson, added this question. John, would you ever write a crossover where John Steed meets the Doctor? And my question is, why haven't you?
Double umbrellas.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the emphasis in the two shows are a little different, but it's a possibility. I was hoping to write a second Avengers novel, but the first one unfortunately didn't sell well enough to do so. Where I was going to have John Steed meet the Prisoner.
Oh wow!
Ooh.
Very cool.
I mean, when I write a story, I come up with a kind of couple of ideas and then throw them into the mix and think what will happen. And I mean, I just like the idea of what would happen when Steed wakes up in the village. Ooh. And how would he drive them totally insane? You know, as he was. You know exactly that Steed would not do what anybody expects. Right. So I mean, that was how I was starting the thinking about the story. But then they said, "Don't worry about it. We're not doing a second one, so you don't need to." Which is a shame because I would have loved to have done that kind of a crossover. It would have been great fun.
So are we still going to look at the Alex Mack Erie, Indiana crossover at some point then? Because those would be two perfect combos.
I'm thinking
then.
Doctor Who, Shelby Woo, and a little bit of Are You Afraid of the Dark to cut right through the middle. We could have us an Avengers multiverse like nobody's scary business.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're all owned copyrights. And,
hang on a second. Russell T, if you're watching this, we're just giving you some ideas now that you've got Sony in your pocket now. So we're just giving you money out this there. Is the man to do it. Okay?
WGA.
This is the man to do it.
Right, Dad. Love you, Dad.
Yes, no. Dealing with copyright can be a problem, trust me.
Back to the Target days, I think you were like one of the first to do the Dalek stories, correct?
Well, not exactly. I mean, Terence Dix had done several before.
Right.
But Terry Nation had gotten a bit disillusioned with them because, of course, the books had gotten at that point. Terence had been told to write short novels, the shorter the better kind of thing. And Terry felt that this wasn't really very good for the Daleks or anything. It was just they weren't being treated with respect, and so he'd withdrawn his permission. Then when he and I had started working together, Terry was the most amazing guy to work with. He would have me in stitches constantly, very, very funny, very self-effacing. And he just decided at one point, when they called him up, as they usually did, to say, "Can we please do another Dalek story?" He said to them, "Well, yes, as long as John Peel writes it." Now, they didn't have a clue who I was, but they didn't care because any book with Dalek on it automatically sold about twice as many copies as ones without. So they would have, let it, if he'd said, I want my pet poodle to write it, they would probably say. But Terry then called me up and said, "John, how do you feel about writing a doll?" Well, that sounds like a great idea. Why? He said, "Well, I've just signed you up for it." But that was how Terry was. I mean, Terry was an amazingly generous person. When I was writing the book, I would say, "Can I do this? Can I do that?" And he would say, "John, I had my go at it. This is your go. You write what you want, what you think the book needs." And, he never second guessed me on anything like that. If I said, "Oh, I have to change this," he'd say, "Change it."
Nice.
Well, it seems you were in the first wave of fans making official, products to do with Doctor Who. How do you feel about, fans getting more involved in the show? We've had fans playing the Doctor. We've had fans producing the show. It seems like a whole different world now.
Yeah. It's a strange situation. When I joined the Doctor Who Appreciation Society, we were all in our young people in our very early 20s, and almost everybody from that period in the DWAS went on to do professional, either writing or producing or whatever, and a lot of us really made a career out of it, which is astonishing. I can't think of really many other shows that you could say that about. You look at the fans of the show, and many of them, still to this day, many of them are imaginative and have tremendous abilities. And I think it's wonderful. There's something about Doctor Who that seems to draw in talent from various directions, and it keeps me constantly amazed and happy.
John, we have a question in the chats, but I'm going to ask the question, and then we're going to go to a commercial break. But Tom over at Rebs Raiden Rant says, "John, what are your views about books being part of the canon?" Now, I'm going to hold that question over for the commercial break. When we return, we'll answer that question and continue your questions. Please continue to stay logged on, tuned in. We'll be right back, and we'll continue our discussion with author Mr. John Peel. We're back.
Hi, my name is JAIMIE ENGLE, critically acclaimed author of The Toilet Papers, Places to Go While You Go, a short story collection suited to match your bathroom needs. Only have to go a little? No problem. I've got stories under 1,000 words for you. Far from poopin'? I've got you covered, with stories over 5,000 words to keep you occupied, while your latrine stays occupied. And that's not all. The Toilet Papers is endorsed by the fine folks from Squatty Potty, the stool for better stools. But don't take my word for it. See what Dookie the Squatty Potty unicorn has to say on YouTube. You won't be disappointed. Well, I've got to go, but you can grab your copy of The Toilet Papers on Amazon in ebook or print, or get an autographed copy from me at therightangle.com. And don't worry, I promise I'll wash my hands first. The Toilet Papers. You might just stay in the bathroom longer than you need to.
Oh, brilliant! It's hard to believe that in the 56-year history of the greatest sci-fi television show in the English language, there has never been a fan guide to Doctor Who. The official books might give you what they think you need to know, but only a guide written by a true fan will give you what you really want to know. Join Whovian, the brilliant Mackenzie Flaw, as she takes you on an intensive journey inside the world of the first female Doctor. In the Binge Watcher's Guide to Doctor Who, Season 11. Right, let's get a shift on.
You have more options than ever before when choosing a film, a television or internet series, a book to curl up with, or even a radio show or podcast. Get to know the people who are creating for you. The Hangin' With Web Show, hosted by award-winning author and journalist G.W. Pomacher, is the internet's fastest-growing web talk show series. The Hangin' With Web Show features professional, yet casual, in-depth interviews with creative arts and entertainment pros. Meet the people behind a digital revolution in creating more quality content than ever before in the history of media. Find the Hangin' With Web Show on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, or simply go to www.hanginwithshow.com. That's www.hanginwithshow.com.
Continue our interview with the legendary author John Peel. We come on across a somber note for people who've made contact with the Traveling TARDIS over time, and unfortunately, we have two sad stories to report over here. First of all, if you know this gentleman right here, the legendary Jack Hanna, I grew up with him. Speaking of which, up with Johnny Carson when he always will bring those animals, and then I think he moved over to ABC where he did. He continued his love and passion for animals to show people and educate them about the animals that are all over this world. But he did it in such a way that was kind and sweet. And unfortunately, Jack Hanna currently right now he just got diagnosed. His family revealed that he has advanced Alzheimer's disease. And we want to wish everybody, his fans, his friends, and his family, the very best. And Jack, thank you so much for all the years that you've been with us and educated, and we just hope that your findings and teachings of animals continue to touch people from all over. And this morning, this afternoon as we speak, June 27th, I have something to report. I think everybody kind of knew when he disappeared, but we did lose Julian Sands, unfortunately. I'm reading the following from The Guardian. The identification process for the body located on Mount Baldy on June 24th, which was past Saturday, has been completely and was positively identified as 65-year-old Julian Sands of North Hollywood. So, rest in peace there, Julian, with all the work that you've done. If you get a chance, try to find a movie that he's done, because it's just phenomenal, the kind of work that he's done. And I think this picture was actually at Spooky Empire, and we kind of crossed. I don't know if he was a Whovian or not. He kind of looked at the TARDIS pretty funny, but he was happy to get a picture with it. And this is the last picture with him with the Traveling TARDIS that I have. So God rest your soul, Julian. And we wish everybody, their friends, family, for both Jack and Julian. And thank you so much for being part of the WHOniverse. With on that somber note, but we're going to continue our discussion with this gentleman right here, Mr. John Peel there. And if you have any questions, go ahead and bring him up into the chat over there. But I want to make sure, Andrew, you had a comment? Some people have tried to analyze the doctor's characteristics of high-functioning autism or Asperger's syndrome, much like Sherlock Holmes. Did you look into the doctor's mental state on an integral part of his character?
Deep.
We're going deep on this one.
Yeah, deep.
That's your question, John.
Really, I always approached the doctor as alien. And as a result of which, his thought processes really aren't necessarily ones we could follow. So I'm not sure how to quite answer the question exactly, because his mind is not like a human mind. So it doesn't seem like a regular Gallifreyan mind actually either. So maybe he has maybe he's the Gallifreyan equivalent. I don't know.
Wow, I like that.
But it could be.
Well, one of the things, and Kevo, I want to ask you this question because you're recently a new fan of Star Trek. One of the things that was concerning me, I hadn't seen the series as yet, especially when it comes to Discovery and Strange New Worlds, was that I think somebody mentioned that they were making Spock autistic, and I said, I don't think he's autistic. This is just the way he is. I mean, this is Vulcan, and this is just some of the characteristics that he produced. I don't think it's connected to it, but I've always wondered, it's the same thing with the Doctor. It's just the Doctor. That's just the way the Doctor is, especially when you have, for a better term, I think you could say, multiple personalities, especially when the Doctor meets him and herself across time. And then, it's going to be schizophrenic because he's literally talking to himself. I remember that scene in The Day of the Doctor when he's talking and he goes, what are you worried about talking? There's nobody else here but us. And there's 3 of them in the room. I'm like, yeah, that's true. It's just him talking to himself. But
I think it's a spectrum, though, and I think we're seeing a lot of examples that really illustrate that in a lot of good ways as well. I think that people are seeing something in Spock that they sometimes recognize in themselves. I don't necessarily know that means that Spock is this thing, but I think there's a lot of ways that people on the autism spectrum recognize themselves in characters like that, in characters like the Doctor, in people that don't necessarily have neurotypical thought processes. And so, I really loved that question about is that a way that you view the Doctor? And I think John's answer of he views the Doctor as alien, I think a lot of people on the spectrum feel that way. I know that I feel that way at times, and I know a lot of people identify with that idea of feeling alien among humans. And I think that's really cool that we're seeing people talking about this sort of thing now.
Well, the best question that I've ever, or at least one of the best scenes that I think of from Star Trek, is a scene between Saren and Geordi when he turns to Saren, and Saren says something about, "Don't you want to be normal?" And Geordi just laughs back and says, "What's normal?" And Saren just laughs and goes, "It's what everybody else is, and you're not." And I think everybody's just basically their own individual way of things. Yeah, I always thought of myself as being an outsider because I'm sorry, Nico. Go ahead.
I brought Kevo to Star Trek, so I feel a passion on this.
Oh, that's your fault. That is on your fault.
Or we can go even one microsecond further. There's a question that's got to be answered. Mr. Peel, sir. Captain. Who?
Oh.
We can't have this conversation if we don't know your captain, sir.
Yes. Which Trek captain? It's hard.
We got 9 minutes.
I would have said Cisco, but now I'm kind of.
Sorry. Yes.
I'm now leaning towards Strange New Worlds.
That's his second answer.
Yeah. So, I mean, what can
New friend.
I can't argue those choices.
I honestly think that the one that I would get along easiest with certainly is Pike, because I appreciate his approach to things. So, and especially his emphasis on trying to resolve the situation rather than damn the torpedoes and full speed ahead kind of things.
Yeah. No, I got to say, you were talking about earlier about blending genres. I want to say your Star Trek Next Gen novel, Here There Be Dragons, was a fantastic blending of sci-fi with fantasy. So, yeah.
Well, yeah. What happened there was the one rule that they the one rule they had for writing the Star Trek novels is no magic. And when I was going to do my first novel, I thought, well, what can I do that nobody else will do? Well, obviously, that everybody else being everybody else will follow the rules and not do magic. So I'll break the rules. I'll do something you're not supposed to do. And that's how I was trying to work at it in that way. I kind of felt that would be a good way of, doing something nobody else was likely to do.
Fantastic. I want to say also Objective Bajor, one of my favorites as well. So that was Cisco at his best. So
And Pa Wraiths, who said Star Trek can't have magic? I mean, every other person on that show is a fucking sorcerer. So
It's just science magic. It's fine.
yeah. Okay, we got another big question as we're getting into the last few minutes. I got one more big question. How does Doctor Who capture Carmen Sandiego in time?
Actually, in my Where in Time is Carmen Sandiego, I threw in everything I could think of from all my favorite science fiction stuff, which did include Doctor Who and a couple of Klingon jokes, and what have you, because that's part of the fun stuff. With Carmen Sandiego, because that was the only time I've ever had an editor say to me, put more jokes in. Usually my editors will say, take those stupid jokes out. Because I have a terrible sense of humor and I love love doing silly things. So, I'm usually told to remove jokes, but with Carmen Sandiego, they kept saying, put more in, put more in. So I had a wonderful time writing Carmen Sandiego.
I gotta give, because we went to a break, we didn't get back to it, so I gotta get back to to Tom's question. John, what are your views about books being part of canon, i.e. Doctor Who?
My feeling is that all the books are absolutely canon until they're not. Until either the show or another book comes up with something else instead. If there's levels of canon, obviously the show is number one, is the top of the pile. Books are a lesser source. Plus, considering how many books there have been along with all of the shows, you're getting kind of knee deep in canon. You don't know quite where you are half the time. And we've also got the audios. Let's face it. I mean, the audios are very, very popular nowadays.
Right.
So I mean, we include books as canon. Then obviously the Big Finish and BBC audios have to be considered canon too. So and what about the comics? Do they count as canon? It's very hard to say. I think canon is whatever everybody collectively decides it is until it changes.
Gotcha out there.
Very well done.
Well, he says good answers. So I guess it's fine out there.
I've got something like it.
We like it.
Yeah, bravo.
Timothy Zahn, he had a good thing to say about the Star Wars books when they were turned into legends. He said, well, why, this is like storytelling. Stories get passed down orally through the ages. Why not just have different versions of the truth in these books?
Yeah.
Oh my God, Tom, are you trying to make me hungry?
Well, also you have the fact that because Doctor Who travels in time, he can the past can be rewritten. I mean, basically, that's how you have to approach Dalek history. That they've rewritten their own history, which is why it doesn't always hold together, because it's changed. The Doctor has met himself so many times, which is breaking the first law of time, as he constantly does anyway. So, I mean, if there's a difference between what one person says and what another says, he's rewritten history again. What can we say?
I expect Tom to ask this question. He's just making me hungrier. John, what's your favorite sandwich? Maybe there's something I don't know. Maybe there is something good about this.
That's a hard one. It depends on my mood, but generally, fish.
Yeah, that's true.
I like a good fried fish sandwich.
Nothing wrong with that.
Fried fish. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So who inspires you the most as an author? Who's your go-to when you need to be inspired?
Oh, you mean what other authors do I actually enjoy reading?
Yeah.
If any.
Well, Rick Riordan. I'm very fond of his books. Clifford Senac.
John, can you get closer to the microphone? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
You're fine.
One of my all-time favorites is Eric Frank Russell. who was
Oh.
writing in the 60s, early 60s. Wonderful writer with a great sense of humor and absolutely bizarre look at the world. So, I mean, these are all my favorites. I'm quite fond of a lot of Charles Dickens, actually. I'm reading my way through the whole works.
Yeah.
So keeping me busy and trying to educate myself still.
If I can, if you really want to enjoy yourself, you need to look up the Charles Dickens theme park that was temporarily open in the UK. You cannot believe how catchy the songs are. Dickens, Charles Dickens, it gets stuck in your head. They brag about having period appropriate colored water in the streets, which yoinks. There are some really beautiful theme park tributes to it, and if you are a Dickens fan, my goodness, it's something to do to yourself.
Unbelievable.
It is a rabbit hole.
Did
It is a
you
rabbit
say
hole.
period appropriate water on the street?
Period appropriate color water on the street.
Oh.
Okay.
Realistically brown.
I'm so proud that my name appeared just as we were talking about this. That's
I had to think about it. I didn't. I think it went in one ear, kind of went around my brain, and goes, "Wait a minute, try that again, Nico. What was that?"
Doesn't feel real. Yep.
Doctor Who canon. There is no canon. Nothing makes sense. As Colonel Lethbridge Stewart versus Corporal Lethbridge Stewart. Okay.
Yeah.
I get to see it. Andrew says canon is Moffat says timey-wimey. There you go.
There you go.
And Dickens is one of the greats.
Absolutely.
Dan says EFR, an awesome writer.
Good. Someone else with taste. Yay.
Yeah. And just in case for you folks out there, put in the chat. This is John's Facebook page. If you want to follow John on Facebook, not literally. I don't know if he wants you at his house there, but Facebook.com/John Peel Arthur. For those of you listening on the radio, JOHNPEEL author. You can check him out there, and you can keep up with whatever he's doing, aka Thameswater. Okay, there you go. Ew.
So, John, you've written so many wonderful books. You're so prolific. How do you juggle your writing with being a grown-up and doing real-world stuff? How do you manage that time?
Basically, I give up on the second and just stick with the first.
Smart.
I'm not a very good adult. I just enjoy my writing, and that's kind of a priority for me. Mm-hmm. My wife is very good about this and leaves me to create my craziness all by myself.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't know. You just have to work out a balance over the years, really, as to what you can get away with. And plus, I think also trying something new all the time, which helps. I mean, I've just started writing short stories for Star Trek Explorer, and they're basically 2,000-word short stories, and 2,000 words is not a lot, so it forces you to focus on the concept and whatever characters you're using. Usually only 2 or 3, because any more than that, you got a novel instead of a short story. So it's good fun for me to try different things, and it keeps everything fresh and keeps me amused.
Well, John, we've come to the end of our audio portion of the show. John, you're more than welcome to stay if you want to continue. Got some, see if any more questions there. But for those of you listening on our audio, we have to call it a day. We'll continue on into our after party if you want to stick around. And for those of you listening, again, thank you so much. Right now, if you want to continue on, youtube.com, The Legend of the Traveling TARDIS out there. Facebook.com/The Traveling TARDIS. Again, 70,000. Jeez, wow. Just to gloat a little, that's 1,000 away from the Facebook page of Big Finish. We will be tied if we hit another 1,000. That's how.
Wow, that's pretty darn good.
Yeah, that's my ego talking out there. And don't forget like, share, comment, subscribe. We're also on TikTok. And then for those of you watching, if you want to listen on the audio, iHeartRadio, sci-fi.radio, you can download the app for free. Odyssey, Spotify, Spreaker, Podbean, Player FM, wherever you listen to it. And Kevo made this great. I can do this now. There's our.
Take a screenshot.
So please join us, and we're going into the after party. We're still, for those of you watching, you can still continue on. John, you're more than welcome to stay if anybody has any last minute questions. There are some books that I have over here that we haven't even touched the surface on, but for those of you listening, thank you for listening. And if you want to see more of this, please go into our YouTube channel or our Facebook page, anywhere you can watch the videos. We'll be right back. Stand by. And for those of you listening on the audio, please take care of yourselves and become part of the legend. John, if you had more to discuss, I got your link up here. And if you want, after the show, just give me the links to sites where they can purchase your books and such, and I'll make sure I put them into the show description so people can find them for you out there. But I did have books over here that you sent me. I don't even think we touched on the heart of it. But yeah, you did talk about the cosmic.
I mentioned that one briefly. Yeah.
Did mention that briefly. Let's see here. We did the Avengers.
Oh yeah.
We have a Doctor Who book here, Evolution.
Yes, that was another one of my silly jokes, by the way. My first original story was Genesis, so I figured Evolution would be a good follow-on to Genesis Evolution. You know, that was too subtle for most people to get. So
I didn't get it till you just said it, so that's fantastic.
See, that's my problem. Some of my jokes are just way too crazy.
Okay, well, I'm not impressed about whoever took a picture of me in the shower. That's not cool, right there in the picture. This book right here, the Doctor Who, Dr. Omega, arriving on planet Earth, early 2018. Now tell us.
And I don't appreciate somebody using a picture of me, so.
Hey. He's got a little bit on the top there. I'm just saying.
Well, carrot effect, yeah.
Yes. Well, Doctor Omega was a great thing. I was having fun with Andrew Skeletor. In fact, only 2 of them ever came out, but I wrote 6. It being, I was just having too much fun to stop, so I only stopped when we realized that we weren't going to be publishing any anymore. So I've got 4 of them still waiting somewhere.
Gotcha. And we have Suddenly Twins. What's this about?
That one, that was done for an editor called Pat McDonald. I loved working with Pat. Pat was a lot of fun. And I came up with the idea one time of, again, as I say, I come up with pictures in my mind that give rise to a story. And I was brushing my teeth one day, as I tend to, and I just suddenly thought, what would happen if you look into a mirror and somebody else looked back at you, but someone that was almost you? And I thought a mirror universe kind of thing, where everybody has a twin, but of the opposite sex.
Okay.
So,
wow.
If you're a guy in this world, you're a girl in that world, that kind of thing. And then all of a sudden, I had this whole concept basically worked out from that, and I pitched it to Pat, and Pat loved it, which was great. So we did a trilogy of that one.
So what if the USA had a parallel world ruled by magic? Here in Florida, we call it Universal Studios. So they got the Harry Potter land in there. But that looks interesting. Is this for kids or is this for all?
Oh yes, yeah. Oh, okay. It was basically for 5th grade, I guess, and lower, slightly lower. But again, I got to do a lot of great stupid jokes. In that world, they don't have Father Christmas, they have Merry Christmas. Merry
Christmas.
Yeah, you can see.
That's cute.
But that's the kind of joke I think kids would love. So I threw a lot of that kind of stuff in by twisting everything and making it slightly different. The idea being that then hopefully the kids would think of their own ways of twisting things. You know, it gets them going, gets them interested. I hope.
I don't want to see my female version at all. She leaves the toilet seat down all the time. So, The Life of Evans.
Ah, yes, with Lethbridge Stewart. Yes.
Oh,
one of my favorite ones. They wanted me to do a backstory for Corporal Evans, so I came up with a forward story and a backstory at the same time.
Cool.
Where he's reliving parts of his life, not necessarily to his advantage. It was huge fun.
Oh, Mark Robinson has a question. Is that a model of Lethbridge Stewart on your shelf? Take that down.
No, it's a Sherlock Holmes, actually. They mean this little guy here.
I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Sherlock Holmes.
Actually, looks like Inspector Clouseau for me. Yeah, that was my first impression.
I also have further up side another Sherlock Holmes and a William Hartnell.
Oh, okay.
Oh, nice.
So I have a few of these little guys all over the place. I also
have
have
Lethbridge Stewart in this box, but you can't see it because it's in a box.
Yes. Yes. My favorite book cover of all my covers, I think. I just love that one.
That dated worse.
Amazing.
Although the big problem with it is I originally called it Poison. No, actually, originally I called it Venom, but my editor said nobody will know what venom is, so we'll call it Poison. So that was Pat McDonald again. But in Germany they put a couple of them out with these lovely kind of almost photoreal covers, and totally gives away the plot because the title here is Die Schlangende Frau, which means basically the snake woman. Because that's okay. I didn't say she's a snake woman until like 2 chapters from the end. Thank you for giving away the ending.
Nice.
But I love the cover. It's just such a great cover.
It's like having the movie Titanic with the boat in the water broken up all
like someone who owns a lot of reptiles, I appreciate that cover very much. So
we got a question from Andrew Morris. He asks, would you want to write scripts for the new Doctor Who series if you were asked? Well, I'm going to say yes.
I would write for anything that I like if I were asked. In fact, I've actually just written an audio for BBC Audio.
Oh, nice.
So, I mean, that's a new one for me again. It's the first time I've written a story specifically meant as an audio. That girl is poison. Yes, she is.
Yep, never trust a big bud in a smile. Anyway, let's see here. We got this one right here. It's
that's the Dragon Home. Yes.
Dragon Home.
The one with Mullane, my favorite character. Yes.
Okay. And this one we have another Lethbridge Stewart, The Grandfather Infestation.
That was actually the first Lethbridge Stewart I wrote, and they're they've reprinted it, or at least they are reprinting it as an illustrated edition.
Oh, very nice.
Cool. Candyman, are you listening to all this? Yeah, I think you're going to go
adding to the wish list now.
I'm not even sure what that means, but apparently there's a lot more artwork in it, which is good because it's pretty decent artwork.
Yeah, they've done really well with that series. It's been a lot of fun to read.
Oh, they have. It's been tremendous fun. I've written another one which is coming out. Oh no, it just came out, right? It came from the Isle of Man. That's my take of it came from outer space. Only in this case, it's the Isle of Man. That's another example of my horrible sense of humor. There is a town on the Isle of Man called Peel.
Oh.
I set the whole story in Peel.
Of course. Why wouldn't you?
Why not? It should give some people a smile or two, I hope.
Gotcha there. Now, you have, I don't know if I brought this picture up. I definitely want to bring this picture up out there. It's you and John Pertwee. I'm going to ask, being that it seems you have a long trek with Doctor Who talent, was there an interesting story you would like to tell us about a certain person or somebody you met on the set? That was a fun little experience that you had.
Oh, well, it's hard to say. I mean, I've met so many people from the show, and almost, I think everybody really involved with Doctor Who has always been very pleasant, very interested, and very involved with the fans. More so than any show, of any other show I can think of, and I've really had a great time with them. So many great things have happened because of meeting these people. I mean, for example, Matt Irvin, the special effects guy. I met him at a convention in 1988, and the last time I saw him at that convention, he was fixing K9. He was on his knee. He's like bloody rope, dog. And
Just kick it.
About 5 years ago, I was at the Gallifrey convention in Los Angeles, and I walked down this corridor, and there's Matt Irvin on his knees fixing K9. I was like, Matt, have you been doing this for the past 40 years? And he said, pretty much. I mean, that was fun. And I mean, when he came to the first convention, he wanted me to give him a hand bringing stuff in from his car, from his truck in the parking lot. So I go outside, and he goes, "Here, hang on to this," and he throws me the Liberator from Blake 7.
What?
The Liberator, the actual model that they were filming. And I'm holding on to the thing. It's made out of basically cardboard. I mean, not much. And I'm holding this. He says, "Take care of that. We need it." So I mean, great fun stuff. It really is. John,
don't drop it.
John Pertwee was always a wonderful gentleman. Pat Troughton I only met one time, but he was amazing. Absolutely amazing. I did an interview with him. In fact, his very last interview, I believe. And I had done this interview with him, and I said, "Well, thank you, Pat. That was great." And I turned off the tape recorder, and then he said, "You haven't asked me about my new show." And I said, "Oh, right." Turn the thing back on. "So, Pat, what about your new show?" "I'm glad you asked me about that," he said. Wonderful, wonderful man. Great fun. And, everybody I've met from the show is like that. They've all got a tremendous sense of humor and everything. And they're just nice people. Katie Manning. I mean, how can you talk about Doctor Who without Katie Manning? I mean, if any of you guys have ever seen her at a convention, she has so much energy.
Yes.
Hugs everybody. She talks to everybody. She signs everything. And I was at the convention with her, and I said to her, I was sitting next to her, and I said to her, "Katie, have you seen the Dalek cake they've got back here? They had made a chocolate Dalek cake." I said, "Have you seen it?" And she taps me on the arm and says, "Darling, I can't even see you." So I walked her over, and she walked into the table, nearly knocked everything out flying, But what a wonderful lady! What a really amazing girl.
It's funny you should mention that, because one of the episodes that she had to do, we've interviewed her at least twice now, and she's just wonderful. She's every bit. I wrote to her and said, "You're the only reason really I would come to Twitter is to read what you're posting up that day." But she had mentioned, now if you've ever had to sign into something, that they do that thing where they say, okay, they give you like 9 squares and say, okay, point to the street light or point to them. Well, she's myopic, so she was late coming in because she couldn't do the square thing, and she had to be on the show. And she's like, well, she's eventually coming in. She goes, darlings, you don't understand what I've just gone through to get on the show. I had to go and figure that out. I was just like, oh my god, I am so sorry, Miss Mary. But she is a hoot. She is every bit. I hope I get to meet her sometime. I hope she makes her way to America and on my side of things. I want to get to see her.
Yeah, we've met her virtually. We need to meet her in person.
Exactly.
Same with you, John. We need to meet you in person. So we got to get you at a con down our way or something.
Well, we almost came, and just things didn't work out that well for CON KASTERBOROUS, but we got to be up there virtually for that. We did have a question.
That was amazing. It was a great convention, and when they invited me, I thought, well, do I really want to go to Alabama? I'm thinking this is going to be, it's going to be like going into a sweatbox. And then I went, and then I went, wait a minute, Huntsville? And I said, isn't that where NASA is? And they said, oh, yes. And I said, can I get time off to go to NASA? And they said, we take all our guests to NASA.
Yeah.
And I said, so I immediately said, I'm in.
Nice.
And we get, what happens is that there's four of us as guests.
Here you go.
One of whom is John Barrowman.
Yes.
And who I'd never met before. And we get there, and they said, okay, we're going to do a simulation here. We'll get you in the simulator. They have this one which spins you around and throws you in all different directions. And they go, who will volunteer for this? Me. That's John Bannerman, me. And he's just, they put him in this, and then they ask you questions to see if you're still with us and, not throwing up and things. And the guy says to him, all right, John, what's your favorite crustacean? And John says, the Little Mermaid.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Yeah, yes. He kept up this running commentary for the whole time we were at NASA. This running commentary and jokes, and he kept disappearing, and then we'd find him. He'd gotten into a space capsule somewhere, or climbed into one of the beds and gone to sleep, pretended to go to sleep and things like this. I mean, it was hysterical. You couldn't keep a straight face there because he was just having such a great time. And apparently, the people at NASA liked it enough that they did a commercial using footage of all of us, mostly John, of course.
Of course.
It was hysterical. I had no idea they were doing this, but it turned out.
There is proof that John Barrowman has actually reached space. He's just never been in a rocket. Anyway, I have a question from Tom, and he says, John, interesting question. I might add a little addendum to this. John, how would you have changed Jodie's Doctor if you feel it should have been changed? I would say, what kind of episode would you have written, Jodie, had you had one chance to write an episode for Jodie? What would it have looked like for you?
Ooh, hard to say that. I loved her first season. I mean, I thought her first season was one of the best seasons ever in the show. I just loved them. Every one of the stories, even Kaboom and things like that, I liked the way she handled things. So I wouldn't really have changed her, but I would have given her better scripts for the other 2 years. Hopefully, I would have loved to have written a script for her, because they were doing mostly historical stories, which was nice. I always love the historical Doctor Who stories.
Yes.
In fact, the audio I wrote for BBC is straight historical. There's no science fiction in it at all beyond the Doctor.
Oh, wow.
And that was great fun because they actually said to me, you don't have to make this science fiction. You can do historical if you like. and I was like, yes, this is brilliant. So I would have done that if I could have done with Jodie too. There's a lot of great time periods that you could have set her in. I love the thing in the Witchfinders episode where, especially in the novelization of it, which she has problems because she's female. And she's dismissed by the people in authority because she's just a woman. And I liked that, the way that they were, stressed this. And they made, that was something to me that was good, very good, in fact. Because she's a woman, they don't take her seriously. And I think I would have tried to make use of that. And in the way, for example, that Pat Troughton was always taken as being an idiot, but was used his advantage so he could do things, get away with it. And I think it would be nice if Jodie had done a little more of that, subversively using the fact that she's a woman.
Yeah. So using her sex as a deterrent, and just like the Doctor, as we mentioned, Pat Troughton, he was already 5 spaces on the chessboard ahead of everybody, and they didn't know because they underestimated him to use that femininity towards people. Like, oh, she's not gonna. Next thing you know, she's pulling on a sonic screwdriver and screwing up everybody's plans, and that's I totally get you out there. Mark Robinson and Candyman says, I met Matt Irving at Star Trek convention. He signed my K9, but he didn't charge me for his autograph because it's supposed to be a Star Trek only amazing guy. So there you go.
Yeah, he is a great fella. He really is. A lot of fun and very talented.
Gotcha.
Nice.
Gentlemen, we still got a few minutes. Did you have any wrap-up questions before we go?
Well, John, I just want to thank you for your contributions to Cosmic Mask, which is still going strong. And
I'm amazed. Yay.
Yeah, I hope, I just thought about this today, maybe some of the stories we're getting, which are high quality now, these could be the John Peels of the future.
Well, that was what we were hoping. We had set up, after the first issue of Cosmic Mask, we had set up the writers' pool. And the idea was to just encourage other people to write more authentic stories, and also to just give them a little nudge in the right direction of writing talents. And one of the ones we got was Stephen Baxter, who of course become a tremendous force in science fiction in England now. So I mean, there's always great writers out there. And they just need to be found and encouraged, I think.
Yeah, give them some space, encourage them, and just let them go to town.
Yeah, exactly. I'm very, very much in favor of that. I mean, I was helped a lot when I began by Terry Nation. I mean, he pushed me forward in many ways, gave me a lot of really good advice. And I think it's good to pass that forward, pay it forward, do it for other writers, the up and coming people, and do the same thing. So it's a great, opportunity for people.
Well, as we are coming to the end of the episode, John, I have to pull a Patrick Troughton and ask you, why don't we talk about the stuff that's coming up? Do you have anything that's coming up the pipe at this moment out there?
Well, as I say, there's the audio coming out. I'm not sure when. Being the BBC, they'll probably tell me after it came out. Which is what they did. They did that with Power of the Daleks.
Wow.
Big Briggs did a wonderful audio of it, and I only found out by accident that it was actually coming out. And that kind of happens. I've been doing, as I say, short stories for the Star Trek Explorer, which is a lot of fun. I got to use one of my favorite characters from Enterprise, Porthos.
Oh, nice.
I think Porthos is very underrated as a hero, so I did use things like that. I've got another project possibly coming up with Candy Jar, not as the leverage for life. As I say, they're re-releasing the grandfather infestation as a semi-illustrated book, which is cool. I'm looking forward to seeing what they've done with it. So, you know, I'm keeping fairly busy all the time, which is good because I like to be busy. I like to keep going. I always have things that I want to write and play with. So I've been very fortunate in that respect over the years. I always had that opportunity to do things and to play new fields. So I'm very grateful.
Well, John, stick around after the show for a moment, but we're going to go ahead and say goodbye. Thank you, Nick Smith over at the Cosmic Mass. Thank you, Mark Muncy, for hosting for this episode. Don't forget to check him out on Eerie Travels on his YouTube channel and on his Instagram. Check out Nick at the Cosmic Mass. Check out the new stories that we're writing. Nick, I know I have a deadline. I don't know if I'm going to make it, but I'll try my best.
That's fine. Just for you. Just
That's
for you,
right.
a little bit longer.
And for these guys over here, if you want to see more of X is for Show, please check them out over at Nico Action and X is for Podcast out there. So thank you everybody for joining us. Next week, I have no idea what we're doing. This normally that's something we haven't decided yet, but we do have possibly a surprise for you as we enter in July. We have a very, very special guest coming from the coast. That's all I'm going to say at this moment. That is my absolute hint, and I'm leaving.
Super
cryptic.
Don't guess.
No, I want to put a vote on what I would love to see you guys do as an episode.
Yes,
I would really love to see you all do a Doctor Who cake challenge.
Oh my god!
Run with it.
I'm already hungry and stuff. Yeah, what would we do? Well, I meant you know, Nico, we do our foodies over on Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
so we do have an episode.
Yeah.
We might expand. Everybody's been talking about doing it, like doing a separate show, like every so often that we do food, Doctor Who or sci-fi type foodie, and then everybody goes, okay, we'll wait until November to do it. So I'm all for it out there. Thank you everybody for joining us. Don't forget to say goodnight on the way out there. If you haven't already, please right now, youtube.com, The Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. Again, join us on our over 70,000 and growing. Facebook.com, The Traveling TARDIS. I don't know where you people are coming from, but I love that you are here. Don't forget, on the way out, like, share, comment, subscribe on our YouTube channel. And if you want to join us, TikTok at the Traveling TARDIS. Now, I do have to mention this. If you are on our Twitch channel, please go to everywhere else. We just got word, unfortunately, for our friends on Twitch, because of streaming issues, the only thing we will be doing moving forward is the Worlds Apart game that you saw the commercial for earlier. Until things change at this moment, Twitch made a decision. We're going to uphold it, but unfortunately we won't be able to stream live over here. So if you want to catch shows like this, please go to our YouTube channel, Facebook page, even Twitter, which I never put the link to, so I'll leave it at that, but it's also at the Travel TARDIS on Twitter if you want to join us there. But unfortunately for our friends on Twitch, if you want to see full shows, you definitely want to go to YouTube. But we will be doing special World Apart games exclusively on the Twitch channel there. And no, that's Rat Hole. I don't know. I give him too much credit out there. Thank you all for joining us. Please stick around there. And John, if you can stick around for a few moments. So everybody say goodnight. And as I always say, Tony, take us out. Tom, did you really say Centauran balls?